Good evening, folks. Brian here, Geomagnetic Earthwatch, Friday, February 3, 2023, on our planet. Hope you are all indeed very well. So I hope you remember my video about Mr. John Moore, the gentleman with the distinguished military and intelligence past. I'm not going to repeat his credentials, and his talks and papers on the coming pole shift and how it relates to the 10th planet, the approach of Planet X, Wormwood, if you will. Now, he said something that got my attention that I just finished doing the entire day, doing some internet research on. When the global governments met secretly in the Antarctica in the year 2016. So what I'm about to say to you is just a condensed version of Mr. Moore's discussions and all my subsequent findings. And you can confirm this on the internet if you like. So we'll start off on February 18, 2016, when the Russian Ministry of Defense reported that the Patriarch Kirill of the Russian Orthodox Church on that day arrived in the Antarctica, where he was joined and met up with the Russian naval armada, bringing the Ark of Gabriel from Saudi Arabia. The Ark of Gabriel, which was entrusted to the Russian care by the Grand Mosque of Mecca, Saudi Arabia. I will explain why in a moment. Just prior to that, the heads of the Russian Orthodox Church and the Roman Catholic Church met in Cuba. They met for the first time in 962 years, where Pope Francis gave Patriarch Kirill some religious texts relating to the Ark of Gabriel. Now, the Ark of Gabriel was first discovered in Mecca on September 12, 2015 by a construction crew doing some tunnel work underneath the Grand Mosque in Mecca. And when they attempted to unearth the Ark of Gabriel, the construction crew, as well as 107 other people, were killed by a plasma emission. Further, on September 24, 2015, they made a second attempt to unearth the Ark of Gabriel, where 4,000 people were killed by a huge plasma emission, which also toppled a construction crane. The cover story by the Saudis was the deaths were caused by a stampede. Now, the idea of relocating the Ark of Gabriel was to secure it at the most remote and safest place in the world. And after, it is remembered that the Pope gave Patriarch Kirill a manuscript to perform a ritual to make the moving of the Ark of Gabriel a safe one. They felt that the decision to relocate the Ark of Gabriel once it was discovered by the construction crew is because of the vast annual numbers of people performing Hajj at Mecca. The probability of it then being discovered was just too great. Therefore, when it was accidentally discovered by the construction crew, who were killed by a plasma discharge. So why did Saudi Arabia call upon the Russian Orthodox Church to help them? I'll explain. In the year 1200, during the Roman Catholic Crusades, it wasn't just, the Crusades weren't just against the Russian Orthodox Church, it was also against the Islamic faith. And during the Crusades, the Russian Orthodox Church protected not only their own religious libraries, but that of the Islamic faith, or they've kept it under their protection until recently, 7 years ago. So for what the Russian Orthodox Church saved during the Crusades were Gabriel's instructions to Muhammad, along with a box or ark of immense power that he was forbidden to use as it belonged to God, to be buried in a shrine at the place of worship the angels used before the creation of man, until the day of resurrection. On December 6, 2015, the Federation Naval Research Vessel Admiral Vlaminski left Saudi Arabia with the armada of accompanying naval vessels, carrying the Ark of Gabriel. Patriarch Kirill performed using the secret text given to him by Pope Francis, Cuba, performed an ancient ritual over the Ark of Gabriel in the only church in the Antarctica, the Russian Orthodox Holy Trinity Church. Immediately thereafter, the Russian Special Forces took the Ark of Gabriel to a secret location in the Antarctic, not to be disturbed again until the end of times, the end of the world. Now, we'll get into the dates of the world leaders. November 11, 2016, Secretary of State John Kerry visits the Antarctica. He was there November 10 to November 12. At the same time, former Apollo astronaut Buzz Aldrin, who after Neil and Armstrong walked on the moon in 1969, he was sent to leave Antarctica. Some medical excuse. I understand Buzz Aldrin was a very outspoken person, and perhaps they felt it best that he not be there while some of the world leaders met in secret. November 18, 2016, the Governor General of Australia made a secret visit to Antarctica. Shortly after Patriarch Kirill's visits, President Obama made a very secret visit to Antarctica. At the same time, the U.S. Director of National Intelligence made a secret trip to Australia. My understanding is they were probably on the same aircraft, the C-17 Globstar. Putin also attended virtually. So we have the coming together of the three major world religions. A great cooperation for a very important transport of something to those who haven't met for almost 1,000 years. Now, the cover story for John Kerry, of course, was climate change. He's still involved. He's still part of the cover campaign. That was the reason for his visit. Obama, secret. Since that time, they banned all private ships from going to the Antarctica without advanced authorization for the next 35 years. I misplaced some of my notes, so I got to go from Mary. Now, as John Moore stated, the only place that Planet X can be observed from is from the southern polar region of our planet, Antarctica. It is only visible through infrared telescopes. Now, before I mention the purpose of Pioneer 10, in fact, there were two, Pioneer 10, Pioneer 11. Now, Planet X was first sighted in 1983 from the IRIS observation, the Infrared Astronomical Satellite, discovered on January 25, 1983. 1983 was also the time that Pioneer 10 left our solar system and made an observation. In order to have a better pinpoint location of an orbital body approaching our plane or orbit of the sun, it is preferable to have multiple points of observation. Point 1, the IRIS observation, discovery 1983. Point 2, Pioneer 10. Point 3, Pioneer 11. They had a triangulation to find out exactly where Planet X was. Why is nobody else mentioning this? If you're a new researcher, an astronomer, you need government funding. So just like a climate change scientist, you have to promote man-made global warming in order for the government to give you money. If you try and disprove man-made global warming, you're not going to get your money. If you want your funding for astronomical observations, you can't really say, I want to go look for Planet X. However, folks, they are in fact constructing a telescope in the Antarctic, being shipped in large sections in C-17 and C-130 Hercules aircraft. C-130 is the only one that can really land on the ice in the middle of the Antarctica. The University of Chicago is also involved. So in fact, they are building a Planet X observatory in the Antarctica. When they started, I'm not too sure, but that's probably the reasons why the global leaders went down there. Patriot Curl was summoned very hastily to get down there. Now, as Mr. Moore points out, and this is something I said from my very first video, my very first introduction video a long time ago, December sometime. Obviously, the elites in the world government knows about the next extinction level event relating to the excursion, pole shift, and the approach of Planet X, Planet 10, Wormwood. And obviously, they have to keep us dumbed down, just like in the movies. If we find out there's going to be mass panic and a total breakdown of society, total collapse in the entire global infrastructure and everything that we need, everything that they need for themselves. They need to keep us working for them. Everything has to remain intact. Supply line system for them, financial for them, tax money for them. You are working for their survival, not yours or your family's. Now, as Mr. Moore states, no, I find his credentials and his privy to military intel more credible than anybody I find highly suspicious. Who has none? So when you have a foreign, large, gravitational body coming in, or a large planetary body with its gravitational and magnetic influence, it's going to have an effect on the planets as it's demonstrating right now. It's not a galactic current sheet. And as that planet or planetary system gets closer and closer, the planet Earth will demonstrate its effects through an increase in the earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, drastic weather events, tidal conditions getting worse, etc. Now, a lot of these things, through their cover story, they can explain, well, it's the man-made global warming thing, right? To the point of the catastrophic earthquakes. But I'll tell you again how they're going to be handling that. Now, and he also states that, of course, there's going to be an actual reorientation, not a crustal displacement and shift, an actual reorientation. Not in one day or less than one day, that somebody suggests, that I find highly suspicious. But as Mr. Moore says, a process that's going to take about 30 days, including accelerated winds. And after the accelerated winds and after everything's totally destroyed, no more infrastructure, no more power, no electricity, no more water, no more internet, no more farms, no more agriculture, no more nothing. Before these serious and catastrophic events start happening, I'm going back to my previous video 2025 timeline. Once everything begins to manifest, once we begin to see and feel everything happening, and when the masses start to clue in, there is no damn way the governments are going to be able to control us and them. Unless, one, there aren't as many of us by then, and or two, the population is already contained, as I've previously stated, through some form of lockdown. If you already have the population contained through a lockdown, it makes it easier to have martial law. People already locked down, as Bill Gates stated, by 2025, the next pandemic, which will be 10 times worse than the last one. Me, I say climate lockdowns. It's all part of the plan, people, okay? It's all part of the plan. A select few elite, John Kerry, Bill Gates, religious leaders, they all know. They all know. They went down. Why would people like John Kerry, the governor of Australia, President Obama, and who else went down there? They didn't go down there to see Patriot Kirill perform a religious ceremony on the Ark of Gabriel, which contains the power of God. Or did they go down there themselves to see themselves through infrared visualization, the approach of Planet 10, which perhaps is going to be closer than anticipated? Which is why I keep on saying Agenda 2030 is not going to be Agenda 2030, it's going to be Agenda 25. The timeline has been moved up, people. And I think they found out in 2016. In fact, they found out in 1983. Which gave them enough time to come up with all these orchestrated. We need a reason to cover up for the earth change that's going to be happening. Let's think climate change. Al Gore, you're a volunteer. You're the climate change guy. John Kerry, you too. John Kerry's still in it, right? They're in it for themselves, to preserve themselves. They're not in it for me and you. This brings to question, this was made first. They needed a reason to jab you so many times. Therefore, Dr. Falkenstein and the rest created the 2019. But they need a reason to give you more booster rockets. I gotta try and fool the algorithm. Think about that. Al Gore rhythm. Isn't that weird? So all I can say about that is very sensitive. I know my wife and my daughter, they had to get it because for future travel, they had no choice. Me, not, I'm clean. Man, don't get the third and the fourth. There's a reason why they want to give it the third and the fourth, as well as spike your food with the substance. There's a reason why they want to build these plants in England, Canada, and Australia to produce millions of doses of the substance. Part of Agenda 2030 is depopulation. And like I said, they want to do that by Agenda 25. I'm just giving you my findings, what I find. It's all factual. My supposition is they went down there to view the approach of wormwood. Hence the gathering of religious leaders for the first time in 962 years. So in closing, folks, pay attention to your governments, your political leaders. Watch for any additional sudden resignations like the one from New Zealand. Watch for the elite and government officials moving off of coastal areas like Elon Musk did. He was living in San Francisco. He's now in Texas building his tunnels. Did the Obamas not abandon their shoreline property wherever Florida, and now they're relocating some high point in Australia? Pardon me, Hawaii? Find out where they're going and what they're doing. Prepare yourselves for the next series of restrictions, mandates, lockdowns. Because once you get stuck in that situation, I don't think you're going to be able to get out. I keep on saying 2025, and so does the U.S. Air Force General telling his airmen to prepare for war with China by 2025. World Economic Forum, there's going to be a massive cyber attack probably on the grid 2025. Bill Gates, the next pandemic will be 10 times as worse by 2025. Therefore, I say, you have 2023 into 2024 to make your final preparations and secure yourself. Get off that highway. Find your safe location. Get off that highway. Safe location is not just about Earth's catastrophic responses. It's the thing that the governments are going to do to try and keep you contained and controlled before a martial law. So I just wanted to do a presentation on my findings, my studies. You have to start doing some of your own research when someone presents something to you, whether it's from me or a con man, fraudster, liar in England, or some self-imposed internet god with a huge ego with a suspicious following. I'll get to him next. That's all, folks.